Hello, fellow idiots. This is Nick, the idiot. A couple of things. First of all, you've heard something going around, and so the life has shut down, and I can't get my hair cut, so I'm wearing a hat. I don't necessarily look good in a hat. I don't necessarily look good without a hat, but this is without the hat right now. I feel like can you spare some change? So I'm wearing a hat. Anyway, if you're listening to the podcast, you just have to picture a hat and poof, it's done. That's about it. Also, so this threw everybody for a loop. What we're all dealing with right now, right? Like it just none of us planned. Nobody plans for a pandemic, but turns out we should have. Anyway, we this kind of makes us all like really check ourselves. We're kind of like thrown for a loop, and I am not just a hypochondriac. I've talked about that before. When I say goodbye to somebody, I always try to remember the last thing they said to me in case they die, and then their last words were. And it's a weird thing that I do, and so it's funny. This has however big this is or isn't, it just gets you thinking, about death and the end and everything, and it's had me thinking like crazy about everything really. And you start making like last wishes. Like I have a specific request at my funeral that Jacelyn finally has said okay to. I'm not gonna tell you what it is because I want you to come to the funeral. It's gonna be a great time. But there's this one thing I've always joked about, and she finally, I don't know, about a month ago, was like, okay, we can do that. And I checked with her this morning. She's gonna, so great. Not that anything is imminent. I'm just saying, like, sometime if I go first, this is what I want. But I'm not going to tell you what it is. But like you start to think about that, like if tomorrow never comes, type Garth Brooks stuff. You start making like, we're like, oh, what about our will? Like, for me, I'm just like, I bequeath everything, all of my considerable debt. I give it to Visa and mostly to Bitcoin. Like, I don't have anything. I just have nothing. Take my kids. But anyway, like you start thinking about all these things and all the plans that you might have, even just plans to finish out the school year and have your prom and graduate and have a steady job. And then when you add the layer of not just like suddenly no jobs, but all of this, like, oh, wow, that's heavy. Like, whether and it's all the comparisons to the flu aside, like when more people start dying from something, like, oh, another thing that's killing people, you're faced with all of it. And you're like, oh man, okay, all right. And you can, if you're like me, like there was a time a couple weeks ago where for days, I had this pit in my stomach, and like I was dreaming about it at night, like me passing or losing one of my kids, and then I'd wake up and I was still stressed about it. So like even dreaming and awake, it was just all stress. And it's good in this sense that it has caused us as a family to do something. So this is the thing. I'm not going to be all over the place. This is two things. One, when it comes to you guys stuck at home with your families, if you happen to currently be financially stable through this, just when you're gathered with your family, pray for those who aren't. I was thinking, somebody pointed out the other day that there are a lot of kids who live in abusive, troubled homes, and now they have to stay there all day. And that could be dangerous, not just uncomfortable and frustrating, but dangerous. And so if you're not in that situation, pray for those who are. Don't forget, and find a way, obviously, to physically reach out and to pray, fast, and alms give, and to be there for those who are in need in this situation. But also, when you are just in your safety, pray for those who aren't. And that's the side thing. Just as a family, like how can you embrace this as a family? You do that. We just pray a bunch together. Like we've been doing a chaplet at night just for all these different things, and just trying to remind ourselves, okay, we can breathe right now, we're good, but tons of people can't right now. This is affecting people in so many different ways. So there's that. And then there is the other aspect, the bigger aspect is, when you don't realize you're doing this, and we all do it, we're planning for our future, and it's fine, you have to plan for things. We don't realize sometimes how much is underpinned by banking on tomorrow in some way, and banking on next week or next month or down the road. You just kind of, without knowing, you do it. You assume, I'll always have my spouse, I'll always have my kids, I'll always be there for them. The paycheck will keep coming, and we'll all be healthy. And it can be easy in the rush of every day and just the onslaught of trying to take care of everything and to stay afloat. We just forget that we were never guaranteed any of that. Like, not for real though, we were never guaranteed any of those things. You're not guaranteed that your spouse is going to live longer. You're not guaranteed that you won't get sick. at any given point. You aren't guaranteed a safe trip home on the interstate. You're not guaranteed these things. And being a Christian has never been a guarantee of those things. Never. That's not, Jesus didn't come so that we would live late into our 80s and 90s. It's not what he came for. He came for a reason, but it wasn't that. And we start to think, well, I'm not guaranteed tomorrow, but I want tomorrow. I want it. That's when like the visceral, like the actual flesh part of us, like no, but I want it. I love my family. Like I love being alive so much. I don't want to not be here. And there's this grabbing onto, and what if I can't? What if I can't grasp it? What if I lose it? What if I'm the one who loses out and I have to leave them? Like all those things come to mind. And part of it is so hard because we thought we were guaranteed them in some way, that being in friendship with Christ and following God is something that at least guarantees like, okay, but we're going to be all right. I know that the world is messed up right now, and I know this is going on over there and this is here, but okay, we're praying about it and we're going to be okay. But that's never been the guarantee. It's never been the guarantee. You talk to the martyrs, that's never been the guarantee. The guarantee has never been that as long as you just keep praying enough, it's just going to be sunshine and roses. Because that's not the history of Christianity. Plenty of people have been broken and confused and lost sight because of thinking that. Because then tragedy hits and you're like, well, how do I grapple with this? I mean, this was not supposed to happen. And there's a certain sense in which, yes, suffering was never supposed to happen. Sickness and death was never supposed to happen. That's a different video. But right now, we believe in Jesus, so what does that entail? Like, what is that supposed to mean then? We just believe in a dude who doesn't do anything for us. I mean, that's what can start to seem like. But it really comes down to this. Like, Jesus didn't come to guarantee that we would have a long life. He came to guarantee that we would have life to the fullest. That's what he says. He said, I came that they might have life and life to the fullest, life abundantly. He didn't say until they're 90. He just said, I came to give life. So while your heart is beating and while you have breath in your lungs, it will be to its fullest. That's the first half. So he came to do that. And he did. You see that in any of his disciples, any of his followers, any of the people that he has touched throughout the church history. Those are the ones who, whatever comes your way, whatever happens to come your way, you can handle it. And not just like, oh, we can make it, but with like John of the Cross, his fellow brothers, they beat him up and they put him in a stone closet through the winter for like 9 months. He didn't have any room to lay down even. And they would go to bring him food and they would open the door and he would be kneeling with a smile on his face in bliss, praying the Our Father, just praying the Lord's Prayer with him. And everything he had known, even as like a brother, as a priest, it was just stripped away. But because he knew what it was about, then he was fine. And so for you and I, first of all, the reminder is that he never came to guarantee that you would just have ease in life and comfort. He also didn't come to guarantee that you would have, like I said, a long life, but that you would have eternal life. It's quite different. That your life doesn't have to end when your life ends. John Donne used to be one of my favorite poets, and he has a poem called "Death Be Not Proud." And it's a poem written to death, saying, "Don't be proud, death," because and he's got all these lists. It's really great, and then he just talks about like in the end, then death, thou shalt die, because Christ overcame everything. In the last enemy was death, and we are approaching Easter, we are approaching resurrection, and he died first. He had to die, and so some of us, this might hit us, and this is what I'm trying to get at, I guess. This might impact us drastically, directly. You listening, I have a very small group of people who listen to my stuff, and you might get sick and die. You might lose a loved one. We don't know how these are really drastic decisions that are affecting our economy and people's incomes and job security and the food supply for their home. Like, it's actually affecting all these things, and it may even out and it might not. But whatever comes, you can know this, that the final enemy, above all enemies, the one that kills the body, that's already been overcome as well. So you can have the fullest possible life, every breath, every tick of the clock. And when the last breath breathes out, you can take in your new breath in presence with him. That's actually what he came to guarantee. That's the guarantee, is that if you go through suffering, that's the thing. That's the beauty of what the church teaches, is that if you end up suffering, you don't just suffer, you have redemptive suffering. So suddenly your suffering has meaning. Like it can have not just like mind trick, like I'm playing a mind game just to make it bearable. But no, you can embrace suffering. Like he embraced the crucifix. And because he chose to embrace it and endure that, it had a like full on redeemed humanity. And that's what we can participate in. So if we encounter grief in this season, in this time, it can be transformed into redemptive suffering. And if we suddenly find that we're fine, we can be generous. We can be either redemptive or we can be generous. Either way, we win. God wins. Either way, we can encounter any darkness with the knowledge of what? With him. The knowledge of him. And take the knowledge of relationship with him into that. And that is what he has guaranteed. Is that in this life, you will have the fullest life, however long it is. And when this earthly life passes, nothing else changes if you're already living in trust with him. That's, if you think about it, the marriage vows, like it's the wedding day. It's this huge day. It's all this wonderful, happy, usually, and everybody's together, and you start talking about death and sickness and poverty, and you're like, this is off topic, but it's not at all, right? Because that's the vow. Is no, in sickness or in health. I think that sickness comes first. If we are in sickness or in health, I'm with you. In rich or poor, I'm with you. Until death parts us, I am with you. And the beauty of the reason that terminology is in there is because God has always thought of us in those terms. God wants to be that intimate with us. God pledges himself that faithfully to be with us through rich and poor. It's through everything we encounter, he is there with us closer than our spouse. Because everything, at the moment of your death, everything just gets stripped away, and there's just you. There's just your soul. And if you're in friendship with him, it's just the next step. And we could teach that to our families, definitely. And we should instruct that into our own souls during this time, this season of suffering. This season of suffering that is, in a certain sense, especially for us in the Midwest, just ramping up. It's just getting ready to get worse. And it might. But none of the things we're afraid of were ever guaranteed to us anyway. Or none of the things we're afraid of losing were ever guaranteed to us. The one guarantee, the one thing is that he will never leave you or forsake you. You will never have to be without him. And the beauty of it is, it's not just in spirit, but it's in the flesh. You're a spirit body composite. He came in the flesh. He pledged and gave his spirit and his body. That God doesn't want you to be alone in either. And I know right now we are in a time where you can't receive the Eucharist at the moment. This is a small time. This is a short time. We have all had times when we are away from the ones we love. But you can guarantee that God, in his wisdom and in his spirit, is with us and will never leave us or forsake us, for richer or for poorer, for sickness or health. We were never guaranteed tomorrow. We were never guaranteed any of the things that we've underpinned our lives on. But you can cling to and stand strong on and unwaveringly stand on the one guarantee that the one you were made from and the one you were made for is always near, is always longing for you, will never leave you or forsake you, now, in the hour of your death, and into eternity. So keep that close to your heart. Have a good life. I'll see you on the other side.